focus but also know that I need to make time to date. It's just very hard. Well, there's a saying that there's no such thing as procrastination, but priority. So what does that mean? That means that the reason why, you may have a challenge in terms of the work-life balance or the life-work balance is that you have to make it a bigger priority. So while everything is going well at the job, that's great, but it gets lonely at the top. So make sure that you make it part of your priority to actually meet someone or to interact with someone in a way that when you do get a chance to pause and enjoy life, that you're not starting from scratch. So I think that if there are people in your life that you're interested in, go out on a date, even if it's just grabbing some coffee or whatever, or if it's just taking a quick break, make sure that you do that, because it's extremely important that you have some diversity in terms of, your interaction. Too much work makes it a dull situation. And too much play, well, now you have to do a lot of catch up. So balancing is definitely something that you want to do, but you also want to make sure that you make it a priority to increase the amount of social time that you have. Trust and believe, while you're on the way to being this great person and higher levels at your job or in your career or as a business owner, it's good to actually have a social life in some capacity. And it doesn't have to be something that you force, but you do need to integrate it, because at the end of the day, you're going to realize that, your career is not everything. Your business is not everything. And to have someone in your life, I believe, is something that we all want to have, in some capacity. So just a couple words on that. All right. Redhead Trey, what up? Alba, what up? What's going on? Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Love times 3. I see you. What's going on? Lexi, I see you. What's going on? All right. Exquisite, thanks for coming to this party. Ray says, I hate dating. Sorry to hear that, Ray. But you're not by yourself. Many people do hate dating. Sometimes it's the idea of starting over or repeating things about yourself, or, trust factor, sorting through, the real from the fraud, those types of things. So I do understand how dating can be a bit of a daunting task. System says, yes, it does. I just started making dating a priority again. Good to hear that. Ray, she says, Ray, you're my wife. You ain't allowed to date. Okay. No comment. Allie, what's going on? I see you. Thanks again. Asking for a friend. 21-year relationship, 11 years married. Husband doesn't want to do anything without me. How can I create some me time without pushing him away? Well, make it about him. Learn more about what his passions or, his interests are, and be a cheerleader towards, getting him involved in doing some of those things without you. Obviously, this person loves you very much and wants to be around you and to some extent under you, which may be, may feel smothering, right? Feel like he's smothering you. But I think that you can take this opportunity to learn a little bit about him and his priorities, and his passion, his sense of purpose around, why he's here, and what kinds of gifts and talents he has. And hopefully, just hopefully, you can facilitate an introduction back to that so that he can get wrapped in that a little bit. The other part is, by the way, you want to have a conversation with him about, the fact that you need some time for you and what that allows you to do. It allows you to recharge. It allows you to be a greater girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever. And this is important for everybody. Just because you're in a relationship doesn't mean that you guys have to do everything together. Having some of you time is very good, because it allows you to, breathe a little bit, not necessarily have to take on the role of boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, but allow you to just breathe. And so that's extremely important, that you try to find some balance, and hopefully you're evenly yoked, meaning that you have your business or your job, your career situation, but also you have some other personal things that you like to do outside of just being in your relationship. So hopefully that was helpful for you. Miss Moneycakes, what's going on? Schools, I see you. Reuse, all right. Thanks for joining us. Beauty and the Peacocks is very true. Thanks for the feedback. No problem. It's just hard finding a healthy dating situation, I feel, depending on how successful you are. You're right. Sometimes it's very hard because often you may actually be in your head because of your success. You may think that everyone that's around you may be a fraud. And to some extent, people are. They are looking at your success as something that attracts them. But you have to fight through it. You know, to whom much is given, much is required. So if much has been given to you in the way of success, well, much is required in the area of discernment and discipline to identify who someone is from who they may appear to be. Catch Graham, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. All right. Anyway, sis, you put it out there. I'm going to read what you put out there, sister. So anyway, I see, Ray, you talk about separating the real from the frauds. That's actually true. I need to date deeper outside my type. Like I'm out here trying all the flavors because my type don't like me. That's interesting. I'm just going to leave that alone. XL Tribe, thanks for joining us. Chocolate Lady, I see you. All right. And Annette, you talk about she's definitely being smothered and will not even go to the grocery store without her. Codependency 2.0. I agree. Catch, what's going on? I see you waving. And Ryu says, celebrate the 11 years married. Yeah, while you want to celebrate marriage and all that good stuff, you also want to celebrate your independence. It's important that you find things that actually that you enjoy doing separately too, because I think that's healthy for a relationship as well. While there are a lot of successful couples who work together and live together and do all those things together, I'm pretty sure that they also have the discipline to carve out some time where they are to themselves in some capacity and give each other a little bit of space. So this thing called relationship, what else do you have in the way of questions or comments or anything? We're looking forward to hearing what you have to say, what questions you may have. As you already know, every Wednesday from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., we do Wednesdays with Wes. I'm your host, Donovan Hitchmaster West, and we talk about all aspects of relationships. So, of course, if you don't, I have my trusty bag of random and anonymous questions, but I'd like to hear from you first. So, this can be more relevant to who's actually tuned in. Does that make sense? You can wave and say, yeah, it does, or no, I don't. Also, if you want to go live with me, just go ahead and invite yourself, and I'll go ahead and accept if you want to ask a question in person, okay? So I always like that as well. So if you're brave enough, that is. Anyway, so anybody have any other questions real quick before I go to the bag of random and anonymous questions? Going once. Going twice. All right, so I'm going to go to the random and anonymous bag here. My friend's boyfriend hit on me. Should I tell her or leave it alone? This is a classic question. Your girlfriend, she's your girlfriend? If she's your girlfriend, well, I would say yeah. It's, you're holding a secret from your girlfriend, and to me, that's not who you are. You're there to keep it real, keep it honest. And I look at it as if he's doing that with you, then, well, I'm pretty sure he's done it with a lot of other people. And if he's brave enough to do it with you, her girlfriend, well, I'm pretty sure he's out there. So if you're protecting your girl, tell your girl, like, yo, your boy just came at me. And just have her deal with it. If she decides to ignore it, then she does. If she decides to go and do something about it, that's good too. But if he's brave enough to step to you, I'm pretty sure he's brave enough to step to a lot of anonymous chicks and and that you have nothing to do with that. It's not your burden, your responsibility to hold on to that secret. All right. I see a couple of you guys agree. Exquisite says, yeah, tell her. Beauty and the Peacock says, let her know. If you guys have any other thoughts on that, any other perspectives, I'm all ears. But, again, perspectives, I want to hear yours. Questions, I want to hear yours. I don't want to go to the bag two times in a row or 2 questions in a row. What questions do you have? Anything relationship related, I'm all ears. You guys are just watching, but I want you guys to participate. Child Sonny Brown, thanks for joining. I appreciate that. So what are your questions? All things relationships we talk about on this Wednesday night from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. Any question at all? Did you hear something? Did you see something? Did you read about something? Did you get into a discussion about something related to relationships? I want to hear about it. So talk to me. Ask me questions. I'll give you another perspective, perhaps one that you don't already have, or perhaps even reaffirm an opinion that you had on a particular subject. But we love to talk about all things relationship here on Wednesdays with Wes. So if I don't see a question in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to go to my random and anonymous bag, and we'll pick something out of here, all right? Okay, so Beauty and the Peacock says, I've got another one. All right, I'll give you a couple more seconds to shoot the question. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Pretty Sexy, what up? Thanks for joining us. Okay, Beauty and the Peacock, what say you? You got a question? I'll give you 5 more seconds, 4 more seconds, 3 more seconds, 2 and 1. Okay. Only because I don't want people to jump off because I'm waiting for you for too long. I'm going to answer this question and then I'll answer yours after that. All right?
They came in.
Oh, it came in? No. Okay. So, System says, well, if you dated someone 2 years ago, but it wasn't serious, and then his homeboy tries to holler at you, are you obligated to tell said homeboy? If you were dating someone 2 years ago and it wasn't serious, and then his homeboy tries to holler at you, I would encourage the homeboy to let his boy know that, that he has some interest in that situation. So, if it wasn't that serious, it shouldn't be that, shouldn't be that hard of an ask. So, Pumpkin, what's going on? So I hope you understand that if, I actually had that situation a long time ago where a friend of mine from college, he dated someone that later on I ran into some years later, and I was like, yo, just give me a heads up. So I would ask the question anyway. I would still bring it up anyway, and just to make sure there's no hard feelings or whatever about it. And if it wasn't that serious, then, well, it shouldn't be that hard of a question. And that says, PYT Net says, asking for a friend, how can you get past your husband having a child outside of the relationship? Pretty tough, but it can happen. Number one, it depends on how long ago. And, time does not heal all wounds, by the way. But what it does help with is help to solidify a change in what you may experience in terms of behavior from the husband. So in that situation, if you see the husband, he made a mistake, the mistake, was a serious mistake, and now you have a child there. Well, the goal is to make sure that you're able to heal and, how he is as a father, how he is as a husband, all those things come into play. So if you make that commitment that you are going to see this situation through, then you also have to commit to, forgiveness and loving that child also if that child is going to be in that household. So you can't look at the child as an example of his infidelity, but more so, as a child that needs to be loved. So that's a very tall task to ask of someone, but that's what's necessary. So, you can do it, but the point is that you have to be committed to loving that child, committed to forgiving your husband, and also, making sure that your eyes are wide open to see that he's acting and his behaving in a way that that earns your trust over a certain period of time. So that's the best way I think you should handle that situation. All right. So thank you all for joining us. All right. It's Cat's World. What's going on, Jam Down Lady? What's up? Big Mike, what up? Beauty and the Peacock says, finances and bills in a relationship, 50-50, or does the guy pay all the bills? My friend required this of her husband. He wasn't financially fit to pay all the bills. He was able to pay some, but not all. Well, I think at the end of the day, in your relationship, and I've had this conversation recently, in your relationship, you need to define what the roles and responsibilities are. If your responsibilities are, they fall into a certain category of expenses that you really can't actually afford, well, you have to be honest about that situation and whether or not that's actually going to, ruin the situation, ruin the relationship. Often we don't talk enough in a way that's very intimate and forensic in terms of what we really, entail as the roles or responsibility of a man or woman in a relationship. So you have to define your relationship. You have to define the roles and responsibilities in terms of what it actually looks like, what types of tasks, what types of responsibilities day in and day out are each party actually undergo. And that's all that matters. It doesn't matter what someone else is saying, your girlfriends are saying, your boys are saying. It really comes down to what you say. So if you're a man and you're saying to yourself, I want to pay all the bills, well, do the math. Can you afford that? If you're talking about 50-50, well, 50-50 on what? When it comes to, being in a serious relationship, you're married. Can you pay that mortgage? Is she going to pay maybe the car note? And are you going to take care of like the mortgage and utilities, or will, depending on where you live at, is the mortgage enough plus some other bills? You have to define what those things are. So if you don't have that conversation up front, then you're frauding. All right, you got to be honest and have those tough conversations up front, because the number one way that relationships, fall apart is not due to infidelity, people. It's actually due to finance. So get your finances straight. And it doesn't mean that you're earning too much or too little, but you need to at least know what the other person is expecting so that you can be able to move forward. All right? All right. Ferris, what's up? Thanks for joining. I don't think all should be a requirement. All shouldn't be a requirement. I think at the end of the day, it's not about, 50-50 or 100 and 0. It's about your plan. It's about, definition is the attempt, right, that you're creating. When you define a relationship, when you create a definition for what the roles and responsibilities are, you are actually participating in the plan. There's a plan. And in the plan, you got to define the words that you're using in the plan so that you're both saying the same thing, you're on the same page, and you mean the same thing. This is extremely important. Why? Because we're talking about priorities. And if your priorities aren't in alignment, if you don't have a plan that's in alignment, well, essentially you're going to fall apart, because the left hand is doing something different than what the right hand wasn't expecting. And then now you have something crazy going on. You're going to have a lot of drop balls. So be careful about that. Make sure that at the end of the day that you're on the same page when it comes to roles and responsibilities and how you define each other's, priorities, or how you align each other's priorities, rather. Sis says, that's so much of a burden, especially because people have made choices outside of you financially that I don't think your partner should be required to pay, but a reasonable plan is best. True. Shout out to everybody that has a student loan, right? Shout out to everyone who may have made some mistakes while they were a student and it's impacted their credit score, right? So these are different things that take place. Perhaps you have a mortgage or some other types of financial responsibilities that impact your ability to be at your best. Perhaps it's just because of the child or children that you have from a prior relationship and the financial burden that takes place there as well, right? All these things are key components to your ability to participate at 100% in the current relationship that you're in. But nonetheless, they should all be acknowledged, and you now need to make some hard choices around whether or not you're going to pursue that relationship in light of the other challenges of your significant other. When do you have the conversation about finances? Before you move in or during the courting phase? Very good question. Before you move in, you should have a conversation about finance. So what are your plans? What are you doing about your future? Do you believe in, when do you plan on retiring? Do you believe in having multiple revenue streams? What's your definition of success? What kind of lifestyle do you want to live? These are some really good questions. What's your credit score? What types of things are in the way of you improving your credit score? So these are some really good questions. You may wake up and say, you know what, I want to be more responsible. And so as a result of that, I'm going to clean up my credit. So as I'm cleaning up my credit, well, that means I can't pay these other types of bills, or I can't go out with you. I can't take you out, whatever. You need to know that up front. So even during the courting phase, before you move in and all that good stuff, before you do any of that, get a good conversation going about finances, all right? And if you can survive that conversation, well, then you may have someone there that you can actually start building with, all right? It's Coco, baby. What up? Thanks for joining us. System curves, you're correct. During the courting process. And Beauty and the Peacock, I agree the same thing, right? I would say during courting. That should also align with marriage, starting a family, and more. Some things have to be talked about. Absolutely. Remember, not just that, but also talk about religion, talk about kids, right? Talk about whether or not you're going to take care of your mother, your father. How do you feel about taking care of siblings? Are you a godparent? These are all great questions, by the way. And I'm pretty sure many of you are like, oh, yeah, that's right. I didn't think to ask that question. Well, if you're a godparent and something unfortunately happens to your best friend or your brother, sister, whatever may be the situation, and now you're going to have to take care of this child or children, your significant other may say, whoa, 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 I didn't sign up for that. So these are the types of things you should talk about. Why? Because they can make or break a relationship, right? So when you talk about children, do you want a child or children? Where do you want to live? Are you thinking about relocating? Talk about your career, right? Are you planning on just working a straight 9 to 5, or are you thinking about being a business owner? And all types of great questions and conversations you can have overall to talk, to really get a sense of how someone is moving and whether or not that's something that you're prepared to do. Because there are a lot of people that are saying, you know what, I didn't sign up for all this, but at the same time, they didn't talk about these types of topics either when they should have been talking, especially during the courting phase, all right? During the courtship phase, all right? PYT Ness says, yeah, make sure I agree. I agree with you 1,001%. You got to know what you're getting yourself into. Credit scores, yes, they are a tough one. Daphne, what's up? Thanks for joining. Miss Moneycakes, she says, boyfriend is pressing for us to get married, but he is not stable financially at all. He is a bad procrastinating. He's bad at procrastinating, ignoring bills, which bites him in the end. What do I say to help? You say bye-bye. That's what you say. In that situation, if he's pressing to get married, how are you guys going to get married? If he's not good at, planning things and he's not financially stable, well, what are you guys getting married for at that point? The point of marriage is not just to demonstrate your love for one another and make sure that you commit in front of God and and other witnesses, your friends and other loved ones. But it's also to begin the process of executing or continue the process of executing your plan to build together. So if you don't have a plan where you guys can build together, you don't feel like you can build with this person, the reality is, what are you doing? So what are you getting married for? If you can't build with that person and you feel like being with that person is going to bring you down, I don't know what you do say to help. If you haven't had a conversation already, and it sounds like you have a good grasp of what his issues are, so I'm pretty sure you may have said something. Then I don't know what else. You just have to communicate to him that his priorities are not in order. Getting married is not a priority over getting your finances straight, and it's not that you're like a money grubbing person or anything to that effect. But getting married, the actual wedding itself costs money. Your new home, planning for your kids, future funds for the children so that they can go to college or start a business. All that takes financial planning, making sure that there's a roof over your head and providing for you, or at least contributing significantly to the household. And if there isn't a plan at this point to participate at the level, well, that wedding can definitely be on hold for a very long time. All right. D West, thanks for joining. I appreciate that. Pumpkin, you're welcome. Oh, I feel like financial stability comes before marriage. Now that I'm a bit older, I feel like you can honestly express that I want to marry you, but I want us to not be struggling financially. I agree, but I want to make sure also at the end of the day that if that person has to agree to do something about it. Not to be in denial, not to have their feelings hurt because they don't want to agree with the idea that they may not be able to play the pole position when it comes to the finances. A team should function in a way that's very humble. What that means is humbling yourself for the sake of the team and making sure that whoever's the best at something, that's the person that should take the lead. So men, if it comes down to finances and you're trash, you really don't plan well, you spend too much money, you're always in debt, then give up the reins to the woman in that relationship, so that if she's the one that's better at paying off bills on time, making sure that your credit score is at a certain level, then give up that area of operations, so that she can go ahead and make sure that you guys are in a strong position, in a healthy position, because romance without finance, it's a nuisance. All right. Bailey Brook, what's going on? During the early phases of a marriage, and discuss creating a plan to get that together before the ring. Agree. You want to make sure you have those conversations early and often. Big Jose, thanks for joining. I appreciate that. All right. A life partner, growing up for life. It's deep. These are things that you want to do in a relationship. I agree. Thanks, Daphne. I appreciate that. System of Curves says, I don't even want a wedding, just a ring, vacation, and maybe a small gathering. Keep it simple. Keep the rest of that bread for your future. PYT Net says, women tend to deal with the things they shouldn't when the sex intimacy is really good. How should women disconnect when their goals don't align, but the sex is good? How should women disconnect when their goals don't align, but the sex is good? Well, you used the key word, disconnect, all right? I mean, it's all in your question. So you need to disconnect. You need to know what your priorities are. I mean, I understand the physical is the physical, and it can make you forget about things. It can temporarily disable your wisdom, your power for discernment, but you have to stay focused and on what's really the highest priority. And what's the highest priority is making sure that you're actually with someone that can grow with you, or that you can grow with them. And if there's so much emphasis on the sex, well, I don't care how good they are, you can't have sex all the time. And this person is not if that's their only gift, well, then you already know how long that relationship is going to last. Because, if you're just in a season where you just want to be entertained, that's great. But when you get in a season where you actually want to build with someone, well, you got to think about whether or not, you really, this is a good investment of your time. So the best way for a person to really stay focused is to know what's really important and to be able to take, I would say inventory of that relationship to say, you know what, this person only satisfies me in this one area. But there's a lot of time left in the day after you've had a session or two or even three. And what are you guys doing in between that time? All right? Think about that. Oscar, thanks for joining us. I appreciate that. System says you got to get that away from you. Pray that thing up out of your life. Yeah. What she said. So if you're just now checking in with us, man, this is the Relationship Scripts Wednesday with Wes. I'm Donovan Hitchmaster West, and we're talking about all things relationship. Please ask a question or two or three. Fellas, what are some of the questions you have that you want to put out there or comments? We want to hear from you as well. My boy R. Benny reached out, asked a question or two. But what about you guys? Oscar and my boy Jose, Mike, Big Man Culture. What's going on with you guys? What are your thoughts, huh? Go ahead and shoot us a question or comment so that we can, make sure that we integrate your participation in this thread, in this episode of Wednesdays with Wes. All right. Daphne says, sex is temporary. You're absolutely right. No matter how good it is, no matter how crazy the session was, you still have a lot more day left when you're done. And what are you going to do between, sessions besides, rest and snacks is not enough. You still need more time to actually have some more dialogue and do something and something constructive. So as far as relationships go, I'm pretty sure that while the sex may be great, it's still not going to meet your standard for the long term. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to go to the question bag, the random and anonymous bag, but I'd like to hear from you instead. Miss Missy, thanks for joining us. You ready? All right. My boyfriend's sister hates me. What should I do? Nothing. I mean, you should, think about, why does she hate you? Does she hate you because of something that you did? Is it just one of those things where she doesn't like you? Really, this is something where you need to maybe talk to your boyfriend and figure out, what way he can actually, intervene or intercede, so to speak, in, what's happening between, you and his sister. So have that conversation. Talk about, why there may be that issue and what you can do about it, what he can do about it to play a role in that. He needs to be more supportive or provide some more, context for why she may feel that way. But it's extremely important that you don't go on the offensive, say, well, I hate her too, or try to, get into something that's aggressive in that space. I would really just try to find out why this person does. And when you find out why, then you want to make sure that, your boyfriend knows, that his sister is, not feeling you for whatever reason, and let him play a role in trying to resolve the matter. All right. So that's down. Questions, ladies and gentlemen. Any questions at all? It's Wednesday. It's 9:48, so we got about 10, 12 minutes. And I want to ask you, do you have any questions? Do you have anything related to relationships that you want to ask me? You want to get another perspective? Go ahead and ask me. I'm looking forward to that. We do have some other questions here in the random and anonymous bag, but I thought I'd ask you first. So before I go to this bag again, do you have any questions, anything related to relationships? I see some comments that are coming in a little late. Big Man Culture says, sex only will result in emptiness, just like the cup that Donovan keeps slurping on. You talking about this one? It is empty. It's all good. But you're right, Mike. You're right. It's just going to leave you empty. It's Cat's World says, what's your advice when you're feeling a disconnect with someone you really care about? How you measure the pros and cons, and how do you figure out what to do, whether to leave or stay? So the advice when you are feeling a little disconnected, feeling a disconnect with someone you really care about is communication. It's really communication. You know, you want to have a conversation with them about this feeling of disconnect that you're having and why you feel like you're having it. But you want to start off in a place of concern. Often when we have this conversation where it may come off a bit accusatory, and the person we're talking to gets defensive. And so you don't want to talk in that way. You want to talk in a way where you're focused on you and how you're feeling. So focus on the fact that you're concerned, that you may be a bit fearful of the relationship going in the wrong direction or whatever, but talk from your space. Don't say, hey, I noticed that you're a little, disconnected, or I feel like you are doing X, Y, and Z. No, I'm concerned that we are not talking like we normally talk, or, I'm having some challenges right now with where we are right now. It feels like we are not really, vibing like we normally do, or that there seems to be a little tension between us, and I'd like to learn more about that. So the goal is, and I got some water now, Mike. The goal is that you communicate through your feelings, and where you are on that situation, as opposed to project what someone else is doing and put them in a defensive space, because more likely you're just going to get a defensive response, which is not going to give you anything to really work with. Figuring out what you want to do is really based off of, figuring out what to do is really based off of, what are all the things that you're experiencing. For instance, how long has there been a disconnect? What is the disconnect about? Is this something that you can actually really fix? The person that you're in a relationship with has to be interested in also being part of the solution. So then you're faced with the question of, am I tired, or is this person tired, or are they done? And so time, to some extent, can play a role in finding out whether or not this person is really done. Or if you are done overall, you're just exhausted because it's so much work. But the reality is that you should really have some serious conversation, but at a time when you're not upset, at a time that you can really kind of focus on where your concern is coming from and talk from your space, not from theirs. All right? What's going on, T.O.? I see you. Pumpkin says, I see a lot of family dynamics changing, people turning cold and having less compassion. Is a family dynamic too personal for work? If new executives frown on it, what do you do? It's a good question. Is a family dynamic too personal for work? It depends on the culture. So in certain work environments where people work together for a very long time, family dynamics are very, prevalent, and they exist in all kinds of ways. In some instances, they may be even a little bit too familial. So, but again, it goes right back to in the work environment where the work culture may exist amongst a group of people who are, have been working together for a long time. It's not such a crazy thing to have the family dynamics, at work and not come off as too personal. If new people in a space frown on it, well, you kind of have to respect that. So, work is work. And so when people try to be more personal at work, well, you got to respect the boundaries. So it's not really something that you can do anything about, even if you're coming from a good place. Remember, it's not always about just your intentions. It's really about the end result. So if you're, doing things that you think are going to bring you closer to someone, or they demonstrate how much of a warm and familial kind of environment you're trying to create, but this other person is not taking to it. Well, the reason for that is often because they're interpreting it differently. And guess what? You don't know where they came from. So that means in certain instances, they may actually be, rejecting this kind of behavior because it may be a trigger for something else that they've experienced. So I know most people aren't thinking in that way, but the reality is that our gestures can have an adverse effect depending on, who it is that we're interacting with. So in terms of what you should do in that space, take some baby steps in terms of getting to know people, listen to them, get a sense of, what the holidays mean, what the workplace is like, and what they came up in terms of, the family dynamics. And there you'll learn some more about how they may want to function or what their bandwidth is for interacting at the workplace. All right. So, let's see what else we got here. Tracy Jacks, thanks for joining us. System and Curves is still locked in on the eggplant. Anyway, y'all tripping on here. So, Jackie, thanks for joining us. Trees, what's up? Mr. PDQ, what's going on? So, if you're just now checking in, we have just a couple of minutes. So I have, I think, enough time to answer maybe 1 to 2 more questions. Do you have anything else that's related to this whole world of relationships that you want to talk about? All things relationships we want to talk about, but we only have 5 minutes left to talk about them. So go ahead and shoot me a question if you can. All right? Going once. Going twice. Okay, I'm going to pull out a question from my random and anonymous bag. It says I have a very demanding schedule between work and home and side business ventures. I'm dating and meeting great guys with similar scheduling issues. I feel like I often play, I think we read this before. It says, I think I often play scheduling tag games with certain guys who I feel could have great potential, but we end up having too many time constraints. Yeah, I think we read this question before. A guy says he really likes me, but needs someone who can be more available because he's so busy. What should I do? Yeah, I think I read this question before, but if anyone still has that same question, the bottom line is that you got to make sure that you are able to meet somebody in the middle, and that you can also demonstrate that, your business is no lesser important than someone else's business. It is about making sure that you're equally yoked and priorities are in alignment. All right. I see another comment or question. It says, I see John C. Maxwell book in the background. Should we manage relationships like a business and determine a leader? Absolutely. In your relationships, you definitely need to make sure that you determine who the leader is. When it comes to certain topics, as I mentioned before, you are a team. And in your team, you got to just realize that there is a strength-based approach to how you handle certain things. So what does that mean? That means that if somebody is good at finance and someone else is good when it comes to cooking and someone else is good when it comes to mortgages or whatever, or credit repair, whatever may be the situation, you want to make sure that you work to each other's strengths, because you are a team, and it's not about, well, because I'm the man, I'm supposed to control everything. If the reality is that you're really not good in certain things, then don't let it be the detriment or come to the detriment of your relationship. Make sure that you're mature enough to put it in the right person's hands so that they can run with it and be the best that they can be for that relationship. So you should definitely make sure that you identify who the leader is when it comes to certain things, when it comes to operating your household or even just functioning in your relationship overall. All right? 48 Laws of Power. Yeah, I have all those books behind me, Mr. PDQ. I got a ton of other books as well. 29 Leadership Secrets, Jack Welch. Lead with Authenticity. Strategies for business and technical writing. The knack. Making the number. So yeah, I read a lot. I have a ton of books, and I'm always a student. So yeah, I think everybody should also make sure that you're a student of life, and that you're reading up on the things that you need to do in life. So as a leader, I'm always reading some more, getting some more snippets of nuggets of information, and I think you should all do the same too. Make sure you're doing your homework when you're out there. So I have 1 more minute left, and I just want to make sure that I reiterate to you all every Wednesdays with Wes, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. No questions are bad questions. So as you have questions, feel free to ask them through the DM, and I'll answer them. But make sure you tell a friend. All right? Making sure that you share this good information in a good forum to talk about all things relationship. All right? So be well, and I look forward to talking to you. I see Pumpkin asks one last question. Does being a relationship expert make you the leader in your relationship? The answer is no. It doesn't make you a leader in a relationship, because really being a relationship expert means often that it's hard to actually be the person that is always heard, because they may think that that you're always trying to school them. So as a leader, when it comes, or being a subject matter expert when it comes to relationships, when it comes to your own relationship, you really got to practice just listening, and listening a great deal, and waiting for opportunities where that